How important are your emotions? We live in a world where, in many ways, we live on emotion, right? The TikTok world of just a reaction, emotional reaction, sensual reaction to things. And we're constantly reminding ourselves, we should be reminding ourselves for intellect, right? Reasoning, discipline, self-control, authenticity, being a trendsetter, not following trends, right? And so, some ways, we live on emotions in our culture, and this is worldwide, because now the world is just one place, right? With the internet, like right now with the politics, it's just amazing how much attention is spent in other countries about the current election in the United States. So this emotion that's being driven and reactionary, very much casino-like, right? It's we lose sense of where we are, the time, the place, and it's bells and whistles. So the reaction to that, or the positive correction many times, is to eliminate the emotion. And we step back and we have to be sober, right? We have to be awake. We have to calm ourselves down. We have to be not distracted. I define silence many times as not the absence of noise, but the absence of distraction. You could be sitting right next to extremely loud waterfall, and you're in silence because of the constant sound of the waterfall. It's the breaking of that consistency and the constancy that leads to noise. So by pulling back from emotions are in the realm of noise most of the time. So we need to pull back. That said, there's like another level of emotion, almost a meta level of emotion. Like we may call it our heart or the gut, like the visceral reaction, which is almost an emotion, an impulse to do something that's not reactionary and not the emotional level of the bells and whistles. It's something combining the intellect, the heart, the totality of your circumstances that unites into this very impulsive drive, determined will, or desire for something. And quite often that is accompanied by an emotion, an energy, an excitement, a fear, I don't want to say reaction, because reaction is a shallow emotion. And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about true, deep emotion. I want to talk about when somebody in your life, and this is the key, not you, when somebody in your life, besides yourself, literally beside you, sitting next to you, who's in your life, you're comfortable with, you're with you're with strength in their presence. And that strength allows you to be yourself. When you have somebody in your life that you're comfortable with, and you can be yourself, and something happens to that person, something large takes place in their life, that emotion. They talk about the steps of grieving, right? And we think of grieving only as the steps of grieving is, when maybe the final result takes place, like death, right? Someone dies and you go through steps of grieving. Or something large happens, that's like a death, right? And you have to, a goal, the business fails. The pizza place finally closes after 30 years. I can't get leave. And you have to grieve the loss of the pizza place, right? So you do have grieving. But it makes me think that there is a level of the grieving process that takes place on a daily basis, which makes sense, right? Because there are things that die every day. And we go through maybe a mini rapid process of grieving that. And so when you have somebody that's in your life, and I know most people listening to this right now have had or have, and unfortunately will have, if they're fortunate enough, and this is the paradox of love, isn't it? You know, I remember I was in San Francisco as a young man, and there was a guy I knew. And he was a smart guy, well-educated guy, ambitious, successful businessman. Young guy. At the time, I was young. And he was getting married. He was engaged. And we were at a bar, and we were talking, and he said something. And I knew his fiance. She's a nice lady. And we were talking about marriage and decisions like that. At that time, I wasn't close to marriage. And he made a reference. I guess I made a reference about, you know, how you could get hurt, you know, or like, you know, love could disappoint, right? Or it could hurt you in some way. And I remember he said something to me that it's amazing how you remember these moments. And he said, I'll never let anybody get close enough that I could get hurt like that. And he was engaged to get married. Now, I don't know what happened since then. But that type of protective stance, right? And maybe it's true. If we walk around this earth in that posture where we won't let anybody get close enough so there's nobody beside me, next to me, that I'm comfortable with, I can't be hurt by them. But I ask this question. Can you experience the joy of having that person beside you? The joy of not being obsessed with yourself? I mean, just think about beside you. It's such an amazing expression. I'm beside myself, right? I'm beside myself. Negative, right? Person beside you. You know, you take those long car trips with your spouse, and they're sitting beside you. I spoke about my father when he was dying, and he was sitting beside me, and he said some really profoundly wise words. If we don't allow people into our life and take the risk of being hurt by that proximity, we also miss out. It's like taking your money and not putting it in the bank. You won't get any interest, but you probably won't lose it either. And how aggressive are you with that money to make it into more? Like Jesus has that parable, right? Every man's given certain talents, talents being the money, but it's an interesting word. They were given talents, which also obviously means more in our language, right? And the one who invested and had the biggest return was the one he praised and gave more to. But the one who hid it in the dirt and got nothing in return, and said, I didn't lose the two you gave me, he was sent out. He was sent away. What he had was taken, and he was sent away. We must let people into our lives. We must allow people to be beside us. And when we do that, we risk something. But I'm going to share something with you I'm learning right now. This day, this moment, when I woke up this morning and was awake, I have let somebody into my life. And now they have a battle on their hands. And I'm going to tell you something. It is not easy. Right? It's not easy to watch someone you love and is beside you, with you, has your back. See all these analogies about the proximity. Somebody's got your back. They're behind you. You're not going to get attacked from behind. Huge in battle, right? So but this is the paradox of the love. If we spend our time not letting people in order to not get hurt, this is the irony. When they do come into your life and something does happen, and now the threat of being hurt by that proximity, you know what happens? You grieve the moment. You accept the mini death of that moment. And that moment may be, my life today is not what I expected it yesterday. Because now you have appointments. You have to go places. You have to worry. Diet change. All things change. In a second. In one word. One word from a doctor's mouth changes everything. If we rush to the ultimate grieving, that fatalistic grieving, then what we're in a sense doing is we're saying we don't want you beside us anymore. I reject the proximity. If we handle the moment and grieve the moment, that my today is not what yesterday was, my 5 minutes ago is not and you grieve the small mini deaths, and you do so with faith, you have as many resurrections as you have had deaths. Resurrection is better than birth. Birth is new and starting fresh. Resurrection is taking everything that's ever happened up to that moment and perfecting it. If you start over, clean slate, but you don't have any of the experience to bring forward because it's a clean slate. A perfected experience comes forward with you into the next moment with the wisdom of what you have lived through. This nation is going through one of those. We must grieve on a daily basis what we are losing and have lost. We can't look back and say the United States was this, should be this. It is what it is now. Don't grieve then and don't grieve forward. Grieve now. Acceptance. Ultimate acceptance of this moment. This is the situation we are in at this moment in these United States of America. These are the candidates we have. These are the debate. These are the facts. These are the policies. These are the justices on the Supreme Court. These are the circumstances. What do you do with today? How does it change your life? How do you vote today so that it's a resurrection moment? Could you imagine if the entire United States acted like this? Could you imagine if 51 senators acted like that? Not 100. 51 acted like that. I don't want to hear their vision. And I don't want to hear a desperate plea to return. We need to grieve this moment for where we are, be resurrected in it, and act on that. This all comes around to that deep emotion. If we don't let people into our life, we may preserve us from injury, but we rob ourselves from deep love. Deep love wins and it transforms. New York, LA, every place in between. London, Berlin, Beijing, Moscow, and every place in between. The answer is proximity. The closer you get to your problem, the further you are through that problem. Know who you are, know who's in your life, and invite them to go deeper with you. I love you guys. Have a great day.